Okay, have you ever seen something wrong happening and had that thought flash through your mind? Someone else will probably handle it. It's this weird, really common, and honestly kind of dangerous glitch in our social psychology. Today we're diving deep into the bystander effect and the powerful, often invisible reasons why good people, people like you and me, sometimes fail to help.
So our story really kicks off back in 1964, with a headline that just completely shocked the entire nation. The murder of a woman named Kitty Genovese in New York City became this symbol of modern apathy. As the story was told, 38 people either saw or heard the attack happening, but for over 30 minutes, nobody called for help.
And that one haunting question, why? It just hung in the air. It became a huge catalyst. It forced psychologists to completely reframe how they thought about things. It wasn't about whether people are good or bad, but what is it about being in a group that can just completely paralyze us?
So this story of Kitty Genovese, which, and you're going to want to stick around for this, is a lot more complicated than it first appears. It sparked this massive scientific quest to understand this chilling inaction, and that quest led to the formal theory of what we now call the bystander effect. So what is it exactly? Well, the bystander effect is this wild paradox. I mean, our intuition tells us there's safety in numbers, right? But the science shows something totally different. When someone really needs help, the more witnesses there are, the less of a chance they'll actually get it. It's completely counterintuitive. So a couple of social psychologists, John Darley and Biblite, decided to take this question out of the headlines and put it under the microscope in the lab. They wanted to see if they could actually replicate this inaction, under controlled conditions. Okay, so in one of their most famous experiments, they had participants sitting in separate rooms, talking over an intercom. And during the conversation, an actor would pretend to have an epileptic seizure. You could hear them choking and pleading for help. But here's the key. The researchers changed how many other people the participant thought were also listening in. And the results? They were absolutely staggering. Just look at this chart. When a participant thought they were the only witness, a whopping 85% of them rushed to get help. But just add 4 other people to the group, and look at that number. It plummets to 31%. The more people there were, the less likely anyone was to do a single thing.
And they didn't stop there. In another classic study, they had people fill out questionnaires in a little room. And then, all of a sudden, smoke would start pouring in from a vent in the wall. The big question was, would anyone get up and report it?
And again, the pattern was just undeniable. When someone was in the room alone, they reported the smoke 75% of the time. But put them in a group of 3, that number dropped all the way down to 38%. They would literally sit in a room that was filling up with smoke, kind of glance at each other's calm faces, and just wrongly conclude that it wasn't a real emergency. So here's the most crucial point to get. This isn't about people being mean or uncaring. It's about these incredibly powerful, predictable psychological tripwires that happen to all of us when we're in a crowd. Darley and Latine figured out that helping isn't just a single decision. It's actually a sequence of them. First, you have to notice something is happening. Then you have to interpret it as an emergency. And then, and this is the big one, you have to assume personal responsibility. And the presence of other people can cause a breakdown at any one of these steps. Okay, so there are 3 main psychological hurdles that trip us up. The first one is called diffusion of responsibility. That's that classic feeling of, someone else will probably do it, so the burden isn't all on you. Then you've got pluralistic ignorance. That's the smoke-filled room effect. You ever been in a meeting where the boss says something confusing and you look around and because everyone is quiet, you assume you're the only one who's lost? That's it. And finally, there's evaluation apprehension, which is really just the fear of looking foolish, overreacting or messing things up.
Now, for decades, this was the accepted story. Crowds make us passive. It's a pretty grim picture of human nature, right? But what if the story that started this whole thing wasn't actually true?
So here's the twist. It turns out later investigations revealed that the whole 38 silent witnesses story was a massive media exaggeration. Many people didn't see the whole attack, and some people did try to help or call the police. The foundational story that launched all this research was itself largely a myth.
And that historical correction lines up perfectly with some really fascinating new research. It makes this crucial distinction. The classic bystander effect, it really holds true in those ambiguous situations, like the ones in the lab. But when researchers started analyzing real-world violent conflicts, they found the exact opposite was true. Get a load of this number. A groundbreaking study analyzed hundreds of hours of real CCTV footage from cities all over the world.
And in 9 out of 10 public conflicts, someone stepped in to help, 90%. And even crazier, the more people who were there, the more likely it was that someone would intervene. So when things are clearly dangerous, it seems we actually rise to the occasion.
So this is actually really empowering news, right? We are not doomed to be these passive bystanders. And just by understanding the psychology, we can actually learn how to short-circuit the effect and become what's known as an active bystander. So bystander intervention programs teach these 5 really simple, really effective strategies. They call them the 5 Ds. And you don't have to be some kind of hero. You can be direct and step in, or you can distract, create a diversion to break the tension. You can delegate by getting help from somebody else. You can document what's happening on your phone. Or you can simply delay and just check in on the victim afterwards to see if they're okay. The point is, there are so many ways to break that spell of inaction.
But out of all of those strategies, there is one that is by far the most powerful. And it's powerful because it cuts right to the heart of the problem. You have to find a way to absolutely shatter that diffusion of responsibility.
And here's exactly how you do it. Don't just shout, "Somebody call for help." That doesn't work. Instead, you single someone out. You point, you make eye contact, you give a specific, clear command. By turning an anonymous bystander into a designated helper, you completely break the spell. You place the responsibility squarely on one person's shoulders, and that makes it infinitely more likely that they and you will do the right thing.